The story of Noah and the ark is very famous. God wanted to destroy all of the living animals, people on earth, and he wanted to bring a flood. He wanted to save life after the flood. So he told Noah to build an ark and gather into the ark all of the animals, or representatives from all of the animals, so life will continue. So the ark is there to help Noah to save his life, his family's life, all of the life of all the animals. But I have a question. Why was Noah sent to prison for a whole year? He was in the ark, in prison. He couldn't go out. He couldn't move. He had to work all day, morning and evening, taking care of all of these animals. He was a righteous person. Couldn't God find a different way to save him? Bring him up to heaven for some time, place him down again, bringing him to a special island, then causing the flood not to go to the island. God is almighty. He has all of the power in the world. Can't God do something easier, simpler to save Noah? Why to send him, his wife, his 3 sons, their 3 wives, all of the animals, to jail, to prison for a whole year? And the answer I want to share with you here is that Noah and his wife and his sons, their sons and their wives, had to go through a process. And we learn from the story of the ark, how do we do a process of fixing up things, making us higher, better people. To understand the story, we need to go back to the beginning. At the beginning, God created the world. And as we learned in the first and second time, the definition of good, as God created the world in a good way, is separation and individuation. Separation, each species stands for themselves, each one is unique. Good is when each one knows his place, her place. They know where they need to be. And then comes human, and they create chaos. There is no more separation. Let's read chapter 6, one of the first verses there. So, many men, and it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth. Let's skip a bit. That the distinguished men saw that the daughters of men were fair. They looked beautiful, they looked pretty. And they took them wives of all of whom they chose. Whoever they chose, they took for themselves to be wives, with force, with power. Doesn't matter if that woman wanted to, agreed to, doesn't matter if she was married. If a strong man, a distinguished man saw someone who looked nice to them, they took them to themselves. There's no more separation, no more individuation. The leaders just decided who they can take for themselves. And if the leaders do such a thing, we can just imagine how people who are less important, how did they behave? Did they keep the normal, regular laws, morals of human beings? Did they keep the order? Did they keep the laws of marriage? Who can be with who? And the animals. Our sages, our rabbis teach us that man has influence on the animals. Even the animals started to mate with different kinds. And continued not just to marriage, it continued to property, taking money from different people. It continued to all aspects of life. We started creation with good, and after some time, it became bad and evil. And the Lord saw that the wickedness of a man was great in the earth, and all what he thinks, all his thoughts in his heart was only evil. There's no good. There's no separation. They take every one they wanted. That's how the story of the flood begins. And now God wants to destroy all of the earth, destroy all of the people, all of the living creatures. He wants to save some of them, the righteous ones, but he wants to teach them a lesson. How should they behave? And while Noah builds the ark, and while his family joins him in the ark, they go through a process. Let's see how it begins. So God told Noah to build the ark. He spent a lot of time on building this ark. And I'm skipping to when God told him to collect all the animals into the ark. I want us to remind ourselves something very interesting. When we learned about the story of creating man and woman, we noticed there's two stories. In the first story, the Bible calls them male and female, which isn't a typical word or term used for human beings. Only afterwards we have the term of man and woman. Now let's see how the story of the ark begins with. And the Lord said to Noah, come through and all the house into the ark, for they have I seen righteous before me in this generation. Of every clean beast he shall take by the seventh. He took seventh of each one of them, male and female. That's a translation. We'll see soon the Hebrew. And of the beasts which are not clean, by twos, male and female. So translation, and as we mentioned, translations can cause mistakes. We have for the animals, male and female. If we look at the Hebrew, we have a term which reminds people. Ish ve'ishto, and it's mentioned twice in this verse. Ish means man, ishto, his wife. Not male and female. Ish ve'ishto, a man, take it. For an animal, we use the term of ish, man, and his wife. There's no marriage. It's not a human being. Why are we using here the term of ish ve'ishto, man and woman, man and his wife? When we start the process, we first set our goals. If we have a problem of morality, the morality is so low, we want to set a high goal. That is where we want to reach, somewhere high. We want that even the animals, even they will be affected by human beings. Even they will feel this feeling of human inside them, and they will have as if like a personality and the holiness of marriage. A cow will not be with a donkey anymore. A cow would be with its own kind, and just them together. The ostrich will not go to the emu. They'll feel as human beings. They'll be them as if they are married. They're supposed to get, at the end of this process, this feeling of holiness. That's why we use the term ish ve'ishto, man and his wife. This is the goal. The process took maybe a whole year, and at the end of the process, they didn't really reach this goal, as we'll see it. Noah goes into the ark, the language changes again back to male and female. And it's time for Noach and his family to go into the ark. And it's interesting to notice the order of who goes in and how they go out. So on that day, Noach and Shem and Ham and Yefet, Noach and his 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Yefet. And then it says in the verse, and Noach's wife, and the three wives of his sons with them. They all entered into the ark. So if we notice the order here, we have Noach and his 3 sons, and then comes his wife, Noach's wife, and the 3 wives of the sons. Maybe even Noach was affected by this immorality of human beings, and they go into the ark when there's no holiness and connection in between them. So we can't see Noach and his wife. They still don't see themselves as one unit. They'll have to go through a long process to see themselves as one unit. And also his sons, 3 sons, they stand together as sons. They have maybe a great brotherhood, but they aren't one unit with the wives. They go into the ark, stay there for quite a bit of time. And let's see what happens at the end, after the flood. So we have to go down. After the flood has ended, after the land has dried, and God spoke to Noach saying, go out of the ark, you and your wife, and your sons, and your sons' wives with them. So the order here has changed. If we noticed it, we started with Noach and his sons, then his wife and the sons' wives, and now they're supposed to be like one unit. Each couple is one unit. You should go out of the ark, you and your wife, and your sons and their wives with you. That was a commandment how to go out. Unfortunately, although they had a whole year in the ark, although they went through a great process and they managed to save life, they saved all the life of the universe, all created the continuation. When they went out of the ark, there was still a process to go through. Maybe leaving us still a process that we should go through. And as it says, and Noach went out, and his sons, and his wife, and his sons' wives. So we were hoping that Noach will go out together with his wife, becoming one unit, repairing, renewing what was lost before the flood, renewing this unique bond between man and woman, which was destroyed by people choosing whoever they want. But it did not happen. There was still some separation between Noach and his wife, and between the sons and their wives. There was still maybe a thought that man and woman can be separated and someone can interfere in between. There's still room for us to do our own process. So we begin being in the ark with a goal. The goal is set here. You should become holy again. Even the animals should have this human influence on them, that they'll see themselves as husband and wife. Whenever we start a process, we have to set a goal. The goal is important to succeeding in the process. And that's what we have here. We have a goal set at the beginning of the process. There's 2 more interesting things, or at least 2, we'll mention just 2 more interesting things from this process. When we go into a process, many times we have outer noise surrounding us. It could be a cell phone, it could be a TV show, it could be important things, dealing with the business or with the family or whatever. When we go into a process, we should close all of the exits to promise ourselves that we are here to succeed. We are here to work. And therefore, while I'm sitting in this process, my phone will be set aside. My job, my work will be aside. I can go to it in another hour. Even other important things like family issues, we can put them aside for some time. When Noach goes into the ark, he's separated from everything outside. Not only he's separated, there's a door, there's an entrance to this ark. There's a way for him to communicate with the world outside him, with this evil world. What do we do with this door? Listen to this. It's amazing to see it. It says in chapter 6 again, everyone came into the ark, and then God has commanded him, and the Lord shut him in. The Lord closed the door. Now, if I'm Noach, and I know there's a flood coming, I shut the door, close it, seal it, do everything I can to prevent the water from coming in. I do not need God to close the door behind me. Why does God close the door here? Noach will do it by himself. Maybe it comes to teach us. When you start something, you need to be in it. Don't even think that you can open the door and look out and step out and forget the process you started. So God himself, he closes the door after Noach. He shuts him in to tell him, you are inside this ark, not just to save yourself. You are inside this ark to do something, to learn. When we are shut inside something, we might feel darkness. We are separated from everything else. Or even just bringing out our emotions, discussing them, dealing with them. Dealing with hard things can sometimes be like dark. We don't want to be there. Noach, in his ark, had a source of light called the Tzohar. The Bible writes it as the word Tzohar, and our rabbis, our sages, have an argument. What is this Tzohar? Is this a window, or is it a shiny stone, something very special which gave them light? It could be that there's an argument here of a source of light we use when in this process. It's true, we shut the door, we have separated ourselves, we are committed to this process. The fact we are in a process and we say we are here and we close the door doesn't mean we disconnect ourselves from the world, from the life, from what's happening outside. We are still connected. Okay, we don't have a door, we won't go through it, but we have a connection to the world outside. That is called a window. So even when we go into something, we want to hear what's happening outside. What influences us? How can we influence the outside? We live in a world, we aren't separated in our own bubble. When we build our process, it needs to be correlated to what's happening outside us. We also need to get sometimes help from the outside. We need the sun to shine from outside. Family who can help us. Friends who can help us. People in the community. We need to leave this window open to get support from the surroundings. And there's another opinion of this Tzohar. It's a special stone which has this great shine. It was placed inside the ark. When we go through a process and sometimes see our darker aspects, maybe inside us, between husband and wife, in other relations, we're starting to treat ourselves, and naturally, many hard emotions will rise up. We should also remember, what are the good emotions we have? What benefits do we have? How do I love my wife? How do I love my spouse, my husband? Although there's some tension between us, what great thing does my teenage son or daughter do now, although that we have some tension between us? What is the inner light I have in myself, even when I'm criticizing myself? What is this inner stone? And when we look carefully, many times we'll find out that the small light we have in us can really shine and fill all of the dark arc with light. So we went here through a few things in Noach which teaches us how to go through a process. First, we need to realize we need to go through a process. Some people deny it. God tells Noach, look, I'm not saving you just by lifting you up into the air or putting you in a nice island with all the fruit you want there and you will not have to work hard. No, God tells him, you have to go through a process. The first thing we need to do is to realize we actually need to do something. The second thing is to set goals. What are we trying to gain from the process we're just about to start? After we set goals and we go in, we close all of our exits to make sure we are here to work, we are here to succeed. But even when we close all of the entrances, all of the exits, we still leave a connecting point with us and the surroundings. And we make sure that we have a source of light from outside to inside and from inside to ourselves. When we do that, we can save ourselves, we can make ourselves better people, continue where Noach stopped, and make the world and ourselves better.